Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, coming live to you from North Africa. Yes, I am in the African continent. I am in the country of Morocco, currently staying in Rabat, the capital of the Kingdom of Morocco. So excited to be with you as always after a long trip from the borders of Ukraine through Poland, through France, then all the way to Morocco. Anyway, let me, as always, I'd like to make sure that you guys can hear me. If you will be kind and just give me a thumbs up. I will try to set up, sometimes technology is a little bit challenging elsewhere. So if you can hear me clearly, please just give me a thumbs up so I know that everything is working accordingly. And I truly appreciate it. So, like I always do before, oh, good. Afif Khan, thank you so much, Afif Khan. So I'm glad that everything is working out so far. So it can be very challenging, the speed of the internet, but it won't matter. So we're going to just be thinking positively. That's the key thing. So always think positive. So anyway, let me, first of all, like I always do, I like to express my sincere thanks and appreciation to the channel's members and supporters and to all of you. And if this is your first time landing on this channel here, please make sure to subscribe. So you can, if that is your way of supporting channel, I am grateful to you for that. So I like to give a shout out to two new members, Ramzi Abdurrahman, who is a member. Thank you for becoming a member and thank you for your support. I would also like to give a shout out to Andrew R.E. For becoming a supporter. So, and I truly appreciate your support, and to all of you, like always, because I don't take you guys for granted. I want you to know this, and I am somebody who does not sugar thanks. You all know how it works. So I appreciate you a lot. So, and this time you're spending with me now online here during this live, I hope it will be worth it, your time, because I'm going to share information with you of value that is. So that's what I like to give you back. So anyway, today's topic, let me pull up the picture for you so you know what are we going to be talking about today. So here is the image, the Biden, the President Biden, he gave the proper respect. President Biden and President Yoon, today, it was yesterday or the day before, they announced the establishment of so-called the new nuclear consultative group. You always have to be very, very, it's tricky. Linguistically, it's very manipulating. So the way it was worded on the speech on the Rose Garden is the establishment of the new nuclear consultative group. We all know that is not true. It's because the nukes is going to be in South Korea. South Korea is going to be hosting that, which putting a target on itself. And I'm going to get into this as I move forward. Now, like I always do, remember, I'm going to give you two questions with me to think about it within that big picture. Once again, you have to think about it from the timing perspective, the timing of it. Okay. Second thing, could this indicate how weak South Korea is? This will be the equivalency of Japan. Makes you wonder why Shinzo Abe was assassinated. As a matter of fact, the current Kishida, there was an attempt assassination on his life also. So South Korea, this could be one of those questions. And the third thing you're going to keep in mind as we discuss this is the Quad that contains Japan, India, Australia, and the United States. So those are important for you to keep in mind as we discuss this, because you have to understand it within that global perspective. And if you don't put it within that context, it won't make sense to you. No. Now, let me do a tour around the world with you quickly here, because I came across some stuff that usually, again, you won't hear much outside or inside the US, that is. So. Okay, where's the first image? Here is it's very slow here to upload the image. This image here, this one is for Russia to confront Washington and its allies. Moscow right now is boosting readiness at military bases. Guess where? In Central Asia. Yeah, out of all places, in Central Asia. That's where Russia now is strengthening its military preparedness. And this was quoted by the defense minister, Shoigu, as saying that the United States and its allies were trying to establish military infrastructure across the region. Another topic that might really surprise you a little bit, it has to do with, here's the image of this. This one has to do, again, you won't hear much about this on Western media. So, Greekistan. The Greekistan government decided now to close a U.S. military base, and again, I could have missed it in the Western media, but I checked stuff before I'll come on the air, and I didn't see anything cross. So that is what I wanted to share with you. And the third one, which was very interesting, the third one has to do with, I didn't find an image of this one interesting enough. It's because it was on the sensitive side. The third one has to do with a U.S. military aircraft was spotted in the Taiwan Strait. Usually anytime you hear a U.S. plane, that means it's reconnaissance planes. It's not the AUKUS, I don't think so, but it was just the recon planes flying over there. Once again, you don't hear much about this, and this is why I like to do the tour around the world with you. All right, let's move on to the health aspects. Speaking of health, I did mention to you last time, I'm in the process of thinking about how we're going to structure a channel just for health tips. That's all it's going to be. And it's worth your time, because now I watch certain YouTubers like Dr. Burke, those are not MDs, those are chiropractors, but because they educate themselves about the issues, and that's usually what I do. I only share with you what I do and what I know about, and if something I don't know about much, I'll go and educate myself. So here's the picture of what the health segment today will be about. You will think, why walnut? Walnut is very, very, very important. Walnut to have a health, a sort of a wealth rather of a good kind of fats. The fats that your body needs, like polyunsaturated fats, which are better for you than the saturated fat, of course. The other thing that walnut has, and funny, I was outside and I bought a bag of walnut. I was eating that as I was walking back to the hotel here. So walnuts have a high amount of omega-3 fatty acids. That is why it's important. Omega-3 fatty acids also you find in none other than fish, especially in salmon, not the farm-raised. Stay away from farm-raised stuff. Eat the pure natural stuff. So here's the thing. It's just small amount of walnut will be packed with big nutritional benefits. And I'm going to just share a few with you here before I dive into the topic. So here are the vitamins and the minerals you will get in 1 ounce of walnut, just 1 ounce. So up to 3% of your daily recommended amount of calcium. Yeah. So up to 10% of your daily iron take, up to 5% of your daily potassium, up to 14% of your daily magnesium, and 7% of your daily folate. So that is why studies after studies have shown that eating walnut can really help you lower your LDL, the bad cholesterol, that is. So, and this is why I feel comfortable enough, recommending this. I can't tell you this kind or that kind. I don't do that because that depends on whatever you like. Just for you to know, you'll be better off snacking on walnut than snacking on chips. And if you only know what's in those chips, that just stay away from that. So anyway, enough of that, and let's talk about our topic of the day. The statements by both President Biden and President Yoon. I hope I pronounce it correctly. So as I said earlier, the United States and South Korea have now vowed to bolster. Get this, guys. Again, everything is in the message and the wording. This is why I'm hoping, at least with this channel, to help you start to learn to decipher the wording, because that's all in the wording, the delivery. Like if you read up about the individuals who retire from the Central Intelligence Agency, for example, or whatever, the one thing they will focus on is they tell you is the mind. If you know how to control the mind, you will be able to manage. It's no different than here, how it is worded. So the US and South Korea have vowed now to bolster nuclear deterrence in the Korean Peninsula, And here is the thing, because they went ahead and unveiled now the plan to dock American nuclear armed submarines in the Republic of Korea for the first time in decades. Why in decades? Because if you recall, the United States withdrew its nuclear or tactical nuclear weapons from the South Korea in 1991. This is why they are using the term the first time in a decade. So what I also interesting about all this is that they come at a time of a high tensions that they are sort of emerging stronger by the day. You're not blind to what's going on. You all know the rhetoric that comes out of Washington regarding how now the next conflict is going to be in that part of the world, in Asia. So, and this is why you have to put this within that context. And because the statements, as I said, how they word the stuff, very, very interesting. It's because the arguments that the threats that are developing could flare up the tensions in the Korean Peninsula. So the argument for both South Korea and the United States is that they want to sort of control that, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So here is a statement that I'm going to share with you from President Biden. And he said, and I quote, "We are not going to be stationing nuclear weapons on the peninsula, but we will have visits to port visits of nuclear submarines and things like that," US President Biden said, end of quote. You can read between the line. What did they think? When they were drafting that statement, people are stupid? Because to me, that's an insult on all our intelligence. When you are saying we will have visits of nuclear submarine, what does it mean? You're going to do them on a rotational basis. Rotational basis means what? Means that you are permanently there. Look no further what's going on in Philippines. It's just rotation after another. And this is, again, you have to be very careful how you read these statements coming out of both Seoul and Washington. So, and this announcement, again, you have to put it within the not only the Korean Peninsula security concerns or issues, that is, but also Asia writ large. You saw what just happened with Russia now moving forward with establishing forces in Central Asia. You also, and we talked about this because I don't like to keep repeating myself. We talked about Philippines. There are those who argue that Philippines had tensions with China regarding fishermen cannot fish and all that stuff. I can understand that argument. Those can be resolved. It's like you having tensions with your neighbor. Well, sometimes it happens, and you just work it out. No need for drawing guns and all that stuff. That's exactly how I see it. And again, I have to put it within the historical context of how the mindset and the culture in that part of the world. For us, from the West, we're going to put it under the Western microscope or lenses, that is, and we're not going to understand it very well. This is where you have some Westerners misinterpreting, for example, how a behavior of a country in Asia, because it just doesn't fit the norm for us. Well, it doesn't fit the norm for us because it's a different culture, has a different history, went through different experiences. So how can we generalize by saying they're all the same? They are not. So what I found very interesting about all this is that the word that's been used in the statement, and I had a chance to read it, by the way, guys. And one of them has to do with extended deterrence. This term has been used over and over and over. And I am very surprised as to, because this is not the first time I'm seeing this. I'm seeing it from statements going way back. I'll give you a quick example. When the secretary, the general secretary of NATO went to South Korea and Japan, he used the term. When Anthony, Secretary of State, Blinken addressed Asia concerns and so forth, he used the term. When Secretary of Defense used the term. So that's why those kind of terminology is not used in a vacuum. You have to understand it. So, and when they say the word extended deterrence, that means they are thinking in terms of, well, is it time to really deploy tactical nukes back to the Korean Peninsula? So I'm going to ask you a question. How do you, and if you feel like it, just leave me the answer on the chat box, or you guys can talk amongst each other if you like. But a question that you need to really understand: how do you think North Korea is going to react when, or should, the United States deploy tactical nuclear weapons to South Korea? Because to me, as an analyst, that's just a writing on the wall that it could trigger, because any miscalculation, I won't say forget about the Taiwan Strait issue. No. North Korea is another dimension of on its own. It's like when it was disclosed in the documents, the classified documents that have been disclosed by the guardsman, the 21-year-old guy. And one of them, it says, one of the documents mentioned that, it was a hoax. North Korea doesn't have any nuclear weapon. They just pretend to have a nuclear weapon. That's not true. North Korea does have a nuclear weapon. Yeah, it does. It just, for us, it was very hard to determine how many they have. That's no different than Pakistan. Pakistan, we all know, had certain numbers, but that number is not confirmed. Same thing with India. It's not confirmed. Same thing with Israel, is not confirmed. So in the case, and to put it within the context of the the Korean Peninsula tensions, because remember, there is no peace in the Korean Peninsula. Peace has not been established yet. Basically this still a state of war. It was just an armistice. That's all it was. So technically, the war has never ended. So how do you think North Korea is going to think about it or react to it the moment the U.S. deploy the tactical nukes? And this is why a statement like when the president of the United States is saying, well, we're going to just on a rotational basis send them, what are you saying, man? Common sense would suggest that if you are sending on a rotational basis, you are making it permanent, straightforward, And again, because North Korea, it's not going to be very comfortable with having now U.S. tactical nukes near its border. That's no different than how Russia reacted. So, and there is one other thing that I'm thinking now. Okay, because the next logical question we have to ask ourselves is: did South Korea just bow to U.S. pressure, or is the president so weak that he couldn't sort of understand how to navigate the security concerns of his country, South Korea? Now, there are those who say this is exactly what Japan was trying to do a few years ago when Shinzo Abe embarked on some policy of sort of strengthening security ties with the U.S., because he challenged the establishment. Of course, he got assassinated for it, whatever. But beside the point, there are now those who are saying, well, when it comes down to Asian security concerns, could South Korea be moving in the same line of thinking? It's worth just thinking about, because you start to put two things, either diplomacy or deterrence. You can have both. And in the world of geopolitics, you're going to embark on one policy or another, because doing both, you're going to end up just losing credibility as far as, where do you stand on the issue? This is where I see the challenge for the United States. But the challenge is even more for the South Korean president. Because now, if both of them, the South Korean president and the US president, agree that diplomacy with North Korea is the only viable means of achieving a lasting peace, then how can you establish or announce a statement like what they just did about moving tactical nukes, submarines to South Korea? So, and second thing, if the United States or South Korea, for that matter, thinking that they can coerce North Korea to come back to or return to the negotiating table, they are mistaken. North Korea is not blind as to what's going on. They are seeing the trends as well. We all know China is a supporter of North Korea. Russia will support North Korea to a degree, because North Korea is the wild card in Asia. That's how I see it. And should there be a conflict, which I don't foresee, regarding the Taiwan Straits and so forth, mark my word on it, North Korea is going to get involved in support of China. There are those who might not see this. I do. I could be wrong, but so far my thinking about it is because North Korea will have more to lose if it does not react. And this is where I see the statement by the South Korean president. It just defies logic for me. If you, the president of South Korea, saying, well, we're going to have to negotiate with the North, how can you embark on such policy with the United States as far as moving? Because you're just ratcheting up the tensions. There is already a conflict in the making regarding the Taiwan Strait. So how do you think how do you think the Korean Peninsula instability is going to settle with the North? And this is where I see whomever advising I can't speak on when it comes down to South Korea, because that's their country, their culture, the advisors there, whatever way they do it. For us in the United States, I don't know who's advising the president again, because when it comes down to the Asia Pacific strategy, we're just reacting. We don't have a cohesive strategy. We never had one anyway. After the fall of the Soviet Union, things just got out of order, shall we say. So, because here's the way I see it. I see these statements by the joint statement, rather, by the South Korean and the United States presidents, as sort of a declaration of a new level of deterrence, that is, which is not going to settle well with North Korea. If they think that we're going to make the statements powerful, strong, and have a punch into them, that's not a reflection of really adequate diplomacy. I'm not saying you have to bow to whatever. No. In diplomacy, it doesn't work that way. It's just this kind of statements doesn't make sense, and expecting the outcome that North Korea, in this case, will come to the negotiating table, or in the case of the Taiwan Strait or the South China Sea, or that just China's going to say, well, whatever you guys want. No, that era is gone. The world has already shifted, and we seems to be struggling in catching up with that reality. President Biden, that is, he might not even be aware of what he's saying. No offense to the president, but it's a reality. It is what it is. So. And again, I find myself going back in history. What I mean by this, going back to 2017, when President Trump, the former president, that is, threatened North Korea with fire and fury. Yeah, you all remember that, with fire and fury, like the world has never seen. Mr. President, former president, that is. Same with former President Trump. I have nothing against the guy, except when it comes down to foreign policy, the guy is clueless. Just not a. So whoever was advising him, it's no different than different breed of people advising the current president. And that just gives you an idea about how the state of American foreign policy has become. There is no substance. We become just like we say whatever or react whatever and thinking the world is going to dance to the tune. We're going to issue whatever that tune is. It's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, I can go as far as saying if there were to be a major world, I don't like to use the term, let me say thank you to I want to say thank you to Tamputra. Thank you so much for your super sticker. North Korea will react. Yeah, I'm with you on that because I do see it that way. It's just how it is when you are so close to the DMZ. What do you think they're gonna react to that? So that's common sense. So as I said, I'm going back to 2017 and thinking in terms of the statements that the former president issued. Well, same type of advisors, except from the other party. Now we have the same breed of people from the other party. That's why I always say American politics has now become two faces of the same coin. Let alone most Americans have no clue as to how both parties, Republicans and Democrats, have been controlling the political process in America for the last 150 years. So what is democracy if we are to say we live in a democracy? Basically, one party system? Is that what it is now? Because that's all it is. What if I don't want to vote for either? Shouldn't it be a choice in a democracy? If we are to go by that standard, and this is again where I see this reflection of this failure as far as why our diplomacy has never succeeded. Gone that era during Henry Kissinger. Yes, the guy didn't live. There's a dark history when it comes down to his legacy as far as what he did in Vietnam and all that. We all know that history, and we can't hide it. But you give the guy credit that he understood how to read the geopolitical landscape better than anyone currently. That's to me, it's fair. You gotta be fair in your assessment. And this is again where I see this challenge for the United States in understanding this kind of statements now about the South Korean allowing sort of the deployments of tactical nukes. Now, as I asked you earlier, the first three common questions, the timing of it. Why now? Well, you're going to have to think about it in terms of the dynamics that's taking place. What am I referring to here? I'm referring to you have an upcoming presidential elections in the United States. Okay. You have also elections in Taiwan. I don't feel comfortable enough calling them presidential because to me, in my opinion, this is for me again, my opinion, I have nothing against her, but she's a governor more so than a president, because in president, you are recognized by the international community. That's how I see it. So you got these two events. The third one has to do with the role of Quads into all this. You got Japan, Australia, India, and the US. Okay. Now, the question that many is going to be wondering about is India playing both sides? How can India engage in an oil import from Russia, okay, paying for it in rubles and rupees, and at the same time joining Quad? That's just mind-boggling in the sense of where you stand, which side of the fence you stand on. Now, there are those who argue there is nothing wrong with being on both sides. I will leave it up to you to decide on that. I can't speak for you. If you think that is appropriate to conduct yourself when it comes down to international relations or international affairs, then that's going to leave you with one particular dilemma. And the dilemma is how you're going to cement your credibility when it comes down to whatever statements you issue, whatever diplomatic initiative you launch, and whatever coordination you make with other countries. Because they're going to be thinking in terms of, okay, how can we trust that country A that is standing on both sides of the fence? That's just a simple arguments that I see. Of course, India will have to look after its own interest, and rightly so. Except that now with the setting the way it is, you have to think in terms of how the statements by the joint statement that is by the president of South Korea and the United States fit within that context of the Quad in the region, and along the AUKUS, which we all know that's been a foregone conclusion because the Australian Prime Minister turns out to be very, 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 very weak as to how he misled basically Australians. He really mess up the I'm following up closely, especially on Twitter, with some individuals from Australia that just what I'm reading is mind-boggling as to how Australia was and where it is today. This is again no different than in Europe, which I saw with my own eyes. You guys won't believe the conversations that I've been having with people when I'm moving around. It's mind-boggling because they don't understand. And I will upload certain images and footage and all that. I have to wait till I get back to the state. So there were some restrictions regarding photography and video taping and all that stuff. So, but when you talk to the average citizen in the EU, for example, they just lost. They are lost as to how the leadership is doing basically things against their will, the will of the citizens. That's what I meant. So this is what I find it very, 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 I won't use the term disturbing, but it puts the judgments to the forefront of the South Korean president. I'm not questioning, and again, I am not questioning his authority on it. That's his country, he can do whatever. I'm questioning his judgment. Is the same arguments I've made when it comes down to Marcos Jr. of Philippines. And my assessment turns out to be right. Because when he won the elections back then, I put a question mark and I said, I bet you he is going to be in a very, very hard spot, tough spot to decide. And now he's going to be put to test because that's what a leader, that's what is expected of a leader. You have to be tested when it matters. Most of the Western leaders have failed because when it matters, they couldn't take stand. South Korea now is an example. Philippines, Marcos Jr. is an example. And the question that both countries share, South Korea and Philippines, they are both managed from behind closed doors by the military establishments. At least based on what I found. And I've known this all along. So that's what I find very, very interesting as to how South Korea's statement defies logic. And it makes me just wonder, how do South Koreans feel about this? Seeing what's taking place in Philippines, for example, seeing what's taking place as far as the tensions between the US and China, which is going to impact them one way or another. Just imagine this for a second, guys. You're all familiar with Samsung, right? And you all know the market share of Samsung's inside China. Just think about it. China shuts the door for Samsung in China. And basically, when we talk about South Korea, what do we talk about? Samsung. That's just one example. Because the way I see it, should this move forward, and I think it will to a degree, I can confirm it 100%, but I am seeing the writing on the wall that it could move that direction. The big picture that I am thinking about is this for both countries, for both locations, in Taiwan and in South Korea, with the Taiwan Semiconductor Company and with Samsung. Can you just imagine if both entities are destroyed? I'm not talking militarily. I'm talking about the tensions that to the point that they get destroyed, because the US will request either they move to the US, which it's not affordability. It's we can't manage it because we don't have the manpower for that. We don't produce enough engineers here in the US. You know, the argument that the Taiwan Semiconductor TSMC to be moved to Arizona, that plant by itself will cost about $70 billion. That's one. Second, we don't have the manpower for that. The technical know-how, because we don't have enough engineers for it. So which means what? You're gonna have to bring people from overseas, from Taiwan, from whatever, and who's gonna want to move and leave their families behind and come over here to, the United States? I can see the argument for Samsung as well. But all China needs to do is shut the door, like exactly what is happening in Australia right now, which, by the way, the Australian government is lying to the Aussies as far as the truth, where the economy is, the trade deficits that now Australia is experiencing. And again, I found myself questioning the judgments of the South Korean president and those who are advising him. It's no different for us in the United States, those who are advising the president, because the president might not even know what he's saying to begin with. So that's how I see it. So anyway, this is what I wanted to share with you. I am going to have to say thank you to... Okay, let me share this here. Oh, Radovid Drovjak, thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. So it means a lot. Thank you so much. As I said earlier, guys, I do have some footage for you that when I was in Ukraine, I crossed the border and it was very eerie. So, but I needed to be there on the ground to see with my own eyes. So, because to me, that's your credibility lies within how you assess whatever you are seeing with your own eyes. You don't depend on a report or something. I'm a former military. I like to be on the ground to see with my own eyes and make my own assessments and judgments. And this is what I saw in this trip so far in Europe, and I'm now in North Africa here. The reason why I came also here is to assess some dynamics regarding Sudan and also NATO. There are some, how should I put it? Some ventures by NATO in the Sahel area, which is south of Morocco, way down across the Sahel area. And I'm here to sort of assess this kind of events, and I'll make my own judgment. Then I'll share with you that knowledge. But so far, tensions in Sudan are tied to what's going on with NATO down and the upcoming trip, or Victoria Nolan, who's going to Sudan soon. So anyway, let me see if you have any questions here, guys, and I am going to check out, or sign off rather, not check out. So far it's working here, so I'm gonna be here for a few more days, and I will be doing some lives with you here. As to the videos, it's very hard to upload because the speed of the internet is very, very slow, and I'd rather just do the live here till I get back home. Then I'll resume all the videos and so forth. And thank you all for your support. I truly appreciate it. All right, let me go back all the way to the top and see. And by the way, guys, if you will be kind and just type in where you are joining me from, I truly appreciate it. And I like to always know where you are joining me from. So, all right, let's see. Richard, from New York City. Good to have you here. Tamputra, as always, from Jakarta. Good to have you. Coach Ahoy from Malaysia, as always. Steph Lynn, as always, from Canada. Thank you for, I will be in your country soon, so I might do a live from Canada at some point. So let me see who else from some other parts of the world. And it's always nice to see you guys. Last time I had somebody from uh, uh, Thailand. It was so nice. I remember my days in Bangkok when I went over there back then when I was still supporting the U.S. government at that time. David K, good to see you as always. Let me see here, and I'm scrolling down, guys. Uh, And I'll be thinking, as I said, I am thinking, not I will be, but I am in the process of figuring out how to set up this health channel. Will be just for health tips that I've been doing for years and years. You might be surprised to know what my age is, but I'll let you guess about it. And also because I take care of myself. So, and I want to share that with you as well, guys, because that's how it works. To me, it's a community. You have to look at after members of the community. So I'm a believer of that. Live and let live. That is the key. All right, let me see. Okay, I don't see any here, but I'm looking also for any question. I'll be happy to answer one or two questions for you guys. And I truly, by the way, I truly appreciate, I do read all the comments, by the way, you guys exchange, and I truly appreciate the civility of it, because that keeps us very different I'm not criticizing any other places, but I've seen enough the language that is sort of not appropriate, but I truly thank you for keeping it civil here. So, all right, let's see this question here from Doggy 5. Question: what do you think is the significance of Singapore joint naval exercises with China? I'm glad you said this because I was thinking whether to do that one, and I might still do that, guys, for you. Let me know if you want me to do this, and I'll be happy to dig into my own research. I don't depend on whatever's been reported. I have my ways, and I'll be happy to do it. But the way I read it as an analyst, that Singapore is sending a message to the United States. Singapore still an ally of the US to a degree, still allowing its port to be used for refueling, but Singapore is also thinking in terms of its economic prosperity that lies with China, not with the United States. So to me, the way I look at it is that Singapore is sending a subtle message to the United States, but also reassuring China that China doesn't have to worry about should there be any tension. I'm not surprised because, like I said last time, ASEAN countries are thinking in terms of neutrality, except, and I did put that, I remember, I said I'll put a big question mark on Philippines, but to a degree, Singapore. This gesture here, it tells me that Singapore wants to sort of make it clear as to where it stands regarding that. That's what it means. So, all right, let me see one more question here, and all right, where is this question? William N. William N. Good to see you as always. David, you didn't mention anything on North Korea's reaction to South Korea hosting nuclear weapons. Well, remember, it's just a statement as of now. North Korea usually reacts, for example, if there are military drills, which it did last time. But North Korea is not going to just be reacting willy-nilly because it's almost like it's going to become a fool if they do that. They are very measured. The West, some of us, not all, I should not generalize, think that no. North Korea is very measured. They're smart enough to know which action to take that could send a strong message. For now, it's a statement, just the joint statement in itself, because remember, let me get the right word in for it so we be on the same sheet of music here, and that pertain to, let me get it right here. Vow to Boston and Berlin plan. Yeah, establishment of new nuclear consultative group. That is a keyword. Consultative means they just be matter of talking, no more, no less. Now, it will be a different game altogether if there's movements of a nuclear submarine to that part. And what I believe will happen is that North Korea is going to conduct some major missile tests. I won't be surprised. That could be tactical type of missiles, and they've done this before. Japan will have to be very concerned because those missiles usually go over Japan. Uh, yeah, that will be. That's how I see it. It's almost like what happened way back, and I'm sure you guys remember this when a talk between the U.S. and South Korea, something agitated the North, and what the North Koreans end up doing is they bomb. Yeah, they bombed the building where the talks were held at that time way back. That's usually how North Korea is going to react. But for now, they are waiting and assessing where this is going to move forward. All right. Okay, one more question, and I'm gonna sign off here, guys, because I have to go do some other stuff and prepare certain things for next week. Time flies quick. All right, well, I don't have any questions here. So, Scotty Dog from Mumbai. I'm assuming you're from Mumbai. So, anyway, I appreciate you guys joining me here live. As I always say, your time is very important to me, and I don't want it to be wasted. So, I hope that the information I shared with you was useful, was informative, and provide you at least an additional knowledge regarding an issue in Asia that is not pertaining to the South Koreans. So, as always, guys, remember geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye bye.